Now at 5, March Madness is expected to bring in lots of sports gambling revenue. We're going to hear from a local expert about how that gambling can become a problem. Plus, how a Southeast Kansas country store is celebrating National Pie Day. And
the Department of Justice launches an investigation into the failure of Silicon Valley Bank. I'm Nicole D'Antonio in the nation's capital, where the federal government is taking steps to try and prevent another collapse.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
When March Madness begins this week, it'll be the first time betting on the tournament will be legal in Kansas. But that can bring a problem. This is KOAM News at 5. I'm Dow Quick. According to a study by the National Council on Problem Gambling, around 2% of adults in the U.S. have a gambling problem that equates to around 5 million people. The group estimates 15 million more individuals are at risk of developing a gambling addiction. An addiction counselor in Joplin says the problem has grown right here in the 4 states.
Gambling addiction, for instance, some people see that I'm just going to be throwing my money away, so I'm not going to do it. But the gambler will go in, and once they put that first dollar down, whether it's a slot machine or a blackjack table or a poker, whatever it is, once they put that on, the mechanism is engaged, and they're going to keep gambling until they're out of money.
Sports gambling became legal in Kansas in September. The National Council on Problem Gambling offers resources and support to people who might be struggling with addiction. We're going to have more on that tonight at 6. Today is 3/14, National Pie Day. To celebrate, a Southeast Kansas country store has some sweet deals. Circle's Pecans and Country Store in McCune specializes in pecan pies, deli sandwiches, candies, fudge, and other Amish goods. The store's owners say Pie Day is the perfect day to host a sale and offer some freebies to the public.
So today our specials are 50 cents off a slice of pie, $1 off any other pie in the store, and it's double punch day. We have a loyalty card that you get punched every time you come in and buy a pie, and today you'll get double the amount of punches so you can earn free pie that much sooner.
Circle's Pecans and Country Store is on Highway 400 in McCune. Let's check in with Chief Meteorologist Doug Heddy for a first look at the weather.
Well, not a bad Tuesday for us today. In fact, a little bit warmer than what we have seen over the past couple days, which is nice. We'll definitely take that. Plenty of sunshine. We do have some clouds skirting our southern counties. A weak little wave down through parts of Texas will not affect us. But here's our next storm system building out across the western third of the country, and that system will affect us as we head into Thursday. At least the evening hours look pretty good. Most of us 50 to about 55 degrees. As we drop back through the evening, we'll slide through the 50s, 40s, 30s. Not as cold for us tonight as what we have seen, but we do have some changes moving in. The winds are really going to start picking up. Big warm up for us tomorrow. Thunderstorms Thursday. Some could be strong. We're going to break this all down for you here in just a bit.
See you soon. Pentagon spokesperson John Kirby says U.S. officials will voice concern to Russia after one of that country's jets today took down a U.S. drone. An official says the MQ-9 Reaper drone was over international waters off the Black Sea along with 2 Russian flanker jets. One of the planes damaged the drone's propeller, forcing the U.S. to bring down the drone in the Black Sea. Aircraft from both countries have operated in the area throughout Russia's war with Ukraine, but this is the first known interaction of this kind. President Biden today issued an executive order aimed at getting the country closer to universal background checks for gun sales. The order further defines who profits from gun sales and who must perform background checks. It also looks at the increase in the use of the red flag laws and accelerates law enforcement efforts to identify and apprehend shooting suspects. President Biden is facing backlash from environmentalists over his approval of a massive oil drilling project in Alaska. It's a major reversal after he promised no more drilling on federal lands during his campaign. The approval of the multi-billion-dollar Willow project will allow oil giant ConocoPhillips to operate 3 drill sites on federal land in Alaska's North Slope. Leases to drill in the region were approved in the 1990s So the company might have standing in court if the Biden administration were to try to block the drilling at all. Now that the federal government has stepped in to save customers of Silicon Valley Bank and Signature Bank, the next step is investigating to find out why the banks collapsed in the first place. Reporter Nicole D'Antonio has details from Capitol Hill.
CBS has confirmed the Department of Justice has launched an investigation into the failure of Silicon Valley Bank. President Biden hinted at possible investigations Monday while announcing the government is guaranteeing customers will not lose their money.
There are important questions of how these banks got into the circumstance in the first place. We must get the full accounting of what happened and why those responsible can be held accountable. In my administration, no one is above the law.
The Washington Post and New York Times are reporting the DOJ is looking into the actions of senior Silicon Valley Bank executives. SVB's CEO issued a letter to customers Tuesday urging them to not only leave their deposits in the bank, but to reinvest the money they took out over the last week. The criminal investigation is one thing, but there's political fallout to the bank failure as well. And Republicans on Capitol Hill are pointing their fingers squarely at President Biden. House Speaker Kevin McCarthy tweeted that Biden's reckless spending caused record inflation and rapid interest rate hikes that broke family budgets and banks too.
Prior to the bank collapse from last week, people were anticipating a 50 basis point hike again. I think they're now anticipating more of a 25 basis point hike, and some people are actually saying by the end of the year you might start to see some interest rate cuts.
New numbers out Tuesday showed inflation is still an issue, but the February numbers are lower than they were January. Nicole D'Antonio, CBS News, Capitol Hill.
The newest inflation report could impact the government's response to those bank failures. We'll have the inflation numbers a little later.
Prices are going up, but not as much as before. I'm Michael George, and I'll tell you what that means for the economy and interest rates.
But first, results of a new study on the most reliable form of mammography. That's coming up in Health Watch. Topping today's Health Watch, child and adolescent death rates rose 20% between 2019 and 2021. That's the largest jump in at least 50 years, according to the editorial in the Journal of the American Medical Association. That's despite decades of progress against childhood diseases. Driving the spike, deaths from homicide, suicide, accidental drug overdoses, and car accidents. Breast cancer remains the leading cause of cancer death among women. Regular screenings is the best bet for early detection. Reporter Bradley Blackburn has new information on which form of mammography is most reliable.
Researchers tracked more than 1 million women to study which mammograms had the most reliable results. They found the more advanced technology is the best at flagging signs of breast cancer. The study, published in the journal Radiology, compared two types of digital mammography: two-dimensional, which is the standard of care at many testing sites, and the more advanced three-dimensional, seen on the right, which captures multiple X-ray images of the breast from different angles. Results showed a higher rate of cancer detection from the 3D screenings, as well as a lower rate of false positives. And researchers say the technology is especially beneficial for women with dense breast tissue, which makes tumors more difficult to spot. Breast cancer is the most common cancer among women in the U.S., and early detection is critical. The American Cancer Society says the 5-year survival rate is 99% for cancer detected before it is spread outside the breast, what's known as a localized state. Researchers suggest women look for testing sites that offer 3D scans, saying the most advanced technology could be the best weapon against cancer. Bradley Blackburn, CBS News, New York.
If you roll up your sleeve, you might want to turn down the bed. A study in Current Biology found more sleep could help your body respond better to vaccination. Researchers found people who slept fewer than 6 hours per night produced significantly fewer antibodies than those who clocked 7 or more hours of shut-eye. A diet rich in plant-based foods and healthy fats might be good for your brain. British researchers found people who ate a Mediterranean-like diet had up to a 23% lower risk for dementia compared to those who did not. And that is a look at today's health news. A little bit later, what a new series of crash tests shows about the safety of back seats in some mid-sized SUVs.
Plus, we're warming up and thunderstorms in the forecast. We're going to look at that coming up. Well, it definitely was a cold start for us today, but really not a bad day. We're starting to warm things back up, which is good. We're going to continue to warm up as we go through the next couple days. Look outside. Nice shot. This is Indigo Sky Casino and Resort. Indigo is just outside of Seneca, Missouri. And we're going to keep the clear skies sticking around as we go through the evening hours. Temperatures, it's 49 in Nevada. It's 51 in Neosho. It's 54 in Miami. It's 54 in Chanute. So really temperature is not bad. We're still a little bit below normal, but we're heading in the right direction. Outside, 52 in Joplin. Southerly winds light, which are going to increase. Humidity is sitting at 31%. Through the evening, slide back through the 50s, 40s, 30s, but not as cold for us tonight. We're going to drop back mid 30s, not lower 20s like we saw over the past couple mornings. All right, clear skies here. Some clouds to our south, weak little wave down through Oklahoma and parts of Texas. This is not going to affect us. This storm system will. The western third of the country, that will affect us by the time we head into Thursday. Now ahead of it, the winds pick up, but our temperatures start to warm up. Mid 30s to start. You can see these mid and upper level clouds increasing throughout the day, but we're well into the 50s by the noon hour. Once we get into the afternoon, I think we'll go into lower 60s. So a pretty good Wednesday, even though we are going to have a lot of clouds. Let's go into Wednesday night. Clouds continue to thicken. Spotty showers start to pop up very early Thursday morning. We get spotty showers Thursday morning. You can see them right across southeastern Kansas, southwestern Missouri. Here's the noon hour, and then once we get into the afternoon, the cold front drives in. And along the front, we're going to have some scattered showers and thunderstorms. So here's 2:30 p.m. You can see a few additional storms out ahead of the line. And then as we get into the evening, this line intensifies a little bit. I'm not thinking these are going to be severe, but they could be strong. So we'll have to watch that. Here's 5 p.m. Storms driving into the metro and then quickly shift off toward the east. So by 7 p.m., all the heavy rain is out of here. Now, as we get into Thursday night, the colder air filters in, and there could be some light snow showers on the backside with even some minor accumulations as this pushes through, and then we drop back into the 20s by the time we head into Friday morning. All right, for you tomorrow, quick warm up, 40s, 50s, hitting 60 by 4 or 5 p.m., very windy, partly sunny skies. The winds really start to increase by tomorrow. In the afternoon, we're going to have southerly winds gusting 30 upwards of 35, and then pushing 40 to 45 by the time we head into Thursday morning. Rainfall amounts with this next storm system, not extremely heavy, but still, we're going to get some rain. I think a lot of areas will pick up a quarter to half an inch, maybe 3/4 of an inch in spots. And again, some of those storms could be a little bit stronger, especially in the southern half of the region as we go into Thursday. All right, 62 tomorrow, 61 on Thursday, only 42 on St. Patrick's Day. And then look at this. Look at the overnight lows. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in a row below freezing. So that's pretty hard freezes. The weekend looks fine. It's just going to be chilly.
Yeah, and Saturday night in particular, 21 degrees. Thanks, Chuck. Powerful storm could dump more than a foot of snow in parts of the Northeast. The late season nor'easter is also expected to bring ice and heavy winds. It might knock out power to thousands of people in that region. The New York Governor, Kathy Hochul, declared a state of emergency and has already activated the National Guard, warning the storm could be deadly. NASA is launching a new satellite that can detect and measure air pollution in real time from space. It's called Tropospheric Emissions Monitoring of Pollution, or TIMPO for short. The orbitable instrument will observe nitrogen dioxide, formaldehyde, and ozone. All three are pollutants harmful to our health. NASA is partnering with the Environmental Protection Agency and the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration for the project. Plan to launch that satellite in early April. Coming up, how issues in the banking industry are impacting plans to combat inflation. Topping today's Consumer Watch, the cost of everyday items remains high, but measures to solve the problem could be put on hold because of those issues we told you about in the banking industry. Michael George explains.
A trip to the grocery store keeps getting more expensive. A new report from the Bureau of Labor Statistics shows food prices are up more than 10% in the past year. Rents are marching higher, and utilities like electricity and piped gas jumped more than 13%. The higher costs are hitting restaurants hard, including the Root Cafe in Little Rock, Arkansas.
We've seen an increase of about 30 to 40% in our gas prices.
Overall, inflation increased 6% in February. Historically, it's a big annual increase, but less than the 6.4% number back in January.
The takeaway from this report is that prices are decelerating, but they remain high.
CBS News business analyst Jill Schlesinger says the Federal Reserve has been raising interest rates to cool inflation. And Chairman Jerome Powell recently told Congress that more hikes would be coming.
Without price stability, the economy does not work for anyone.
Economists had expected a quarter or even a half-point increase when the board meets next week. But that was before the collapse of the Silicon Valley Bank and New York-based Signature Bank.
There is a real question as to what the Fed will do. There are many who believe that the instability of the financial and banking system, even though it's just small banks or medium-sized banks, that could be enough to put the Fed's plans on ice for next week, that they could pause, but also tell us that it's not over.
Schlesinger says if there is a pause, it would only be temporary because the Fed is committed to bringing inflation down. Michael George, CBS News, New York.
Now, one of the few bright spots in the inflation report is good news for people looking to buy a car. Used car prices are down more than 13% compared to last year. A new series of crash tests gives most mid-sized SUVs a failing grade when it comes to protecting passengers in the rear seat. But it's not because back seats have become less safe. The Insurance Institute for Highway Safety introduced a new test that analyzes how rear seat passengers are injured in a crash. 9 out of 13 models that were tested received a poor grade. The IIHS expects automakers will improve seat belts and other systems in the back seat to improve safety. Today is Equal Pay Day, a date that the U.S. marks to symbolize how far into the year the average woman must work in order to have earned what the average man had earned the entire previous year. According to the American Association of University Women, full-time women workers make 84% of what men with full-time jobs are paid on average. The gap is even greater for women of color. Vinyl records could be making a big comeback. The Recording Industry Association of America says for the first time in more than 3 decades, vinyl records outsold CDs. They say just over 41 million vinyl albums were sold last year, bringing in a whopping $1.2 billion. And according to the BBC, only 33 million CDs were sold last year, totaling $483 million. A final check of the forecast next. Up next on the CBS Evening News, how the amount of sleep you get could impact your lifespan. Then on KOAM News at 6, a Moran, Kansas man previously convicted of child sex crimes is back in jail on child porn charges. Plus, we're going to have more on problem gambling ahead of March Madness and look at Carl Junction's motivation ahead of their state semifinals game this week. Stay with us. CBS Evening News and then KOAM News at 6. NASA has released a new photo captured by the James Webb Space Telescope. It's a rare glimpse of a star nearing the end of its lifespan called a Wolf-Rayet star. It was one of the very first observations made by the James Webb Space Telescope last June. NASA says the massive stars race through their life cycles and only some of them go through a brief Wolf-Rayet phase before going supernova. It's counterintuitive, but the larger the star, the shorter the lifespan. Yeah.
Interesting.
The weather.
Not as chilly tonight. We're going to drop back into the mid 30s. 62 tomorrow, which is pretty good, but the winds really start picking up.
Thanks for joining us. CBS Evening News is next. Of course, we're going to be right back here at 6. Let's make it a great evening.